Hi, everybody. Today we're going to take some time to really look within and discover that everything we've ever wanted or yearned for has its root in our spirit, has its being in our consciousness already. And often, if you really look at an addiction, I find the thing I want in that moment of, yearning is already in the feeling that I'm using to remind myself of my addiction. Um, and so, as we turn within today, we can discover that really what we've been looking for is ourselves, and not the idea we have of ourselves, not the personality that we defend and judge others from and judge others for, but that light, that consciousness, that openness that is really the seat of our awareness and the seat of who we truly are. So let's begin. I love that now that I'm back in Missouri, we have this beautiful wall of trees behind me as the background. It's pretty cool. So let's just take a moment to reconnect with our surroundings. Our feelings are also part of our surroundings. Things that arise in us. Feelings, thoughts, visions, hearing, smell, sensation. All these things arise around the very core of our being, or you could say rise within us, to us as our consciousness in our consciousness. It's not rocket science, although it is. Technically, everything is part of consciousness. That's why our physics tell us things don't coalesce. They stay in a probabilistic wave state without consciousness. How do we have a universe only solidified by consciousness if consciousness isn't an inherent part of it from the very beginning? So let's just sit with our consciousness right now. Sit with these ideas, with our feelings, whatever's arising for us, just in a non-judgmental space, saying it is what it is. Whether I force myself to think about something else, I'm always running into stuff that maybe doesn't sit right with me. But it is what it is. So perhaps finding this non-judgmental attitude is part of returning to our naturalness of being, of consciousness. Indeed, we see part of ourselves, our minds, not like something, but we see that. We see it, we feel it, we sensate. It's something outside of us, something we can observe. Whether it's joy arising, peace, perhaps you're in nature like we thankfully are right now here on this end of the video. But even in a cell or in a room, in a car, we're surrounded by beingness. And despite what they tell you, humanity is part of nature, is natural. Even in our most distorted state, it's something arising in nature. Even though we think we're separate, indeed we're not. And that sense of separation manifests itself and yet is still part of the whole. Part of the whole. It's easy to want to say something, especially when you're on video like this. And I assume I have something to say, not really me, but the culmination of all my learning, whether or not you can really call it that, or experiences. I do like to listen to things like this, so hopefully some of what I glean as wisdom, that wisdom written on each of our hearts, can resonate for me and for you today. Often when we return to the source of the light that we are, that Christ talked about, that the Buddha talked about. Funny enough, I just heard someone say that some believe Jesus was the reincarnation of the Buddha. They said the Tibetans believe that, some do. I've never heard that before, but interesting thought, why not? Indeed, Christ knew himself to be the way, the truth, the life, knew himself to be beyond self in lowercase. And the Buddha did too, right? And of course, both said we have that within us. That nature is actually our very nature, Buddhahood, Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, the divine mother, love, wisdom, warmth, God, known by all these different names that we take for granted and get defensive about. Kind of like moms. And it is Mother's Day weekend. I'm not filming this on Mother's Day, but it's probably Mother's Day when I post it. And so I think it's not just fitting, it's imperative, really, that we look at life and appreciate that it is feminine. That doesn't mean it's not masculine. It can be both. Sometimes someone acts one way, sometimes someone acts another way. You would often say, if they do both enough, that they're like both those things. They behave that way. Someone's a father and a son. Someone's a mother and a sister, a cousin, a friend, a teacher. My dog here, Ghost, is a really good friend, a great listener, at times, with the right words. It has to be words she knows. But also a free spirit, a rebel, sometimes too much for my liking. Someone really connected to nature, really appreciates being outdoors. And without her, especially in recent years, I wouldn't have gotten outside as much. I wouldn't have connected as much with nature. I didn't have a deck like this to hang out on. So it was harder. So sometimes, these roles, we don't even know we're that for someone. We can be a foil. We are a foil for the people we meet because, speaking from a personal perspective, we only see what resonates with us, that somehow clicks in, whether positive or negative or neutral. It's something we recognize for whatever reason. And then, in fact, I was listening to someone say, the outside universe is like the inverse of the self, the personal self. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but they also said that it's the energy that we receive from the outside universe. That's what we see in the outside universe. It's the light that we receive. It's the feelings, the energy we receive through our nervous system, heat, cold, touch, sense of all kinds, um, perspective, wisdom, love, etc., etc. It's what we're receiving, and what we've received often patterns that. But even that is subject to ourselves, right, in the past. So it's ourselves, but kind of in an inverse relationship, you could say. And indeed, from there, we realize that that is us, just further away than our bodies, our minds. We're kind of a point in consciousness, a singularity that's receiving all these inputs from our minds, right? And everything that we say is out, of course, comes into our minds and is seen in consciousness. So you couldn't do an experiment, technically, where anyone could objectively or even subjectively say that they experience the results of that experiment outside of their consciousness. It's impossible. And funny enough, our quantum physics tell us that, we know now that everything arises in point form thanks to consciousness, as a solid object thanks to consciousness. Which is crazy to think about. I don't think we always realize how crazy that is, because without consciousness, before consciousness enters a picture, a photon has a probabilistic wave of perhaps it went this way or that way or that way, however many minutes ago, even through the darkness, quote unquote, of space. But if it hasn't interacted with something that leads to a conscious interaction, or if it hasn't interacted with consciousness, I should say, because it all leads to a conscious interaction, otherwise it wouldn't exist at all, I assume, or at least would stay in weird probabilistic states that have no collapse. How does that even work? It's crazy. It's going in all these ways, not just theoretically, but actually in experiment. It's shown it's actually doing all these different things at the same time with different kind of energetic probabilities, which are a reality, funny enough. That's why in the two-slit experiment, you see the wave function, even though you're sending one photon at the two slits. On the other side, one at a time, you send the photons. You see the wave function in the way that it shows up, because it's interacting with itself. How does that work? Of course, it's beyond really understanding, except for the concepts, because it's what we are. It's consciousness. It's this openness of life, of probability, of God. It's God working through the smallest details, allowing for even matter to have a type of say in what happens. It's almost like matter is making its mind up about something. It's a probability wave. I could do this, but I don't really like that very much. I like this one better. I like this one even better. And when someone looks in, it makes a decision. It's like how our minds maybe work. Okay, I'm here this time. Even though I was in all these places, I'm now here. Crazy. Crazy. So hopefully, for at least one or two of you, what I said was over your head. Way over your head. Because that's the best state to be in when we're not sure what to think, how to think about something. When someone says, hey, imagine infinity, and you're like, it's that moment where we can really turn to our peace. Taking in our breath. For some of us, requesting the spirit of the air, spirit of consciousness, of light, of love, to cleanse our hearts, our minds, not of any specific modality that someone says, oh, you can't think this way or do this or that, but of what we're finding stifling, whether we know it or not. What's stifling our hearts or spirits or our minds. Because it always starts closest to home if we're finding it is troubling us in our minds, in our thinking, in our feeling. And often it has to do with not accepting how we feel. Funny enough, we think we're angry all the time, and so that means we accept our anger too much, but actually, no, we're not accepting that we have this anger perhaps rooted in our past. We're fighting off our feeling, and it's coming out at specific moments, at specific things or people that are triggering, reminding us even more of this anger that we can't hold, we can't allow to just have its moment in the sun for the time it needs to release. And so whatever those feelings are for you today, just be present. Whatever your feelings are, coming into this moment. I often feel like I have to project because the phone's over there, I'm not wearing a mic. But perhaps I can just talk a little more naturally for a second. As we relax, just saying what's up to the moment. What's up? Not even inquiringly, just like, hey, what's up? We're here. We're here now. I don't have to dwell on what I'm worried about. Part of me can, but whatever. I'm not so interested. Letting those things come and go, even the good things, letting them come and go when they naturally will want to go and are going. Realizing that no mind is a perfect expression to everyone of anything, let alone, or, especially not to ourselves often. We can be most judgmental of ourselves. So just let yourself, go. Let it go. Relax. You're not failing. You aren't. Even if it's something that someone calls a failure, it's a learning opportunity, and your spirit will be stronger for it. Let your sense of judgment about someone that's just coming into your mind a lot, just relax about it. They have way less control over what they're doing than you can imagine. There's a part of us that will hopefully arise and say, I can change things, and will change things. But even that, where did it come from? Where does it go? Remind of that song, Where Did It Come From? Where does it go? Something Cotton-Eyed Joe, I'm not sure about it. Yeah, where did that come from? So just being easy on yourself, easy on the world. Noting that there's a really huge universe around this planet. Really big. Makes the Earth look like an atom in the grand scheme of things, less than an atom. And like the original atom before the Bible story says Adam is split. Our earth is whole in its femininity and in its masculinity, in its neutralness of both as well, in its wisdom, a vibration of energetic coherence and peace. Doesn't need anyone to be anything. It is that cool, our planet is. Now, it naturally does amazing things. Naturally does amazing things, including you, including me, including Donald Trump and Joe Biden and whoever else is up there on, whatever list of people someone might find annoying. Drake and Kendrick Lamar both on that list, even if, they are what are, this or that. Funny enough, God is working, God works, and Goddess is life. Goddess is wholeness, is love. We are in the embrace of the mother right now, right this moment. Surrounded by air and space, which is filled with this energy that we like to forget about, that quantum physics tells us about. Filled with the energy of potentiality in every material thing, but even in empty space, so much infinite potential, literally, infinite energy,